Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom with atbbq.com, and this is Hot Buttered Rum. Well, happy holidays, friends. We are hanging out today at one of my favorite local restaurants, Public at the Brickyard, right here in Wichita, Kansas, ready to make a real winter warmer of a cocktail for you. It's hot buttered rum. Now, there are a handful of ways to make a hot buttered rum. The classic way would be just a pat of butter melted into some hot water, rum, sugar, and spice. Now, there's a newer popular technique in which you create a sweet batter you can store in the fridge and plop it right into the hot liquid. Also very good. We're gonna do a third way today that actually really leans toward that classic style, but incorporates a cool technique called fat washing. Now, you could fat wash just about any spirit with a number of different fats, be it bacon grease, beef tallow, or for hot buttered rum, butter. But we're not using just any butter today. We're gonna do a cold smoked butter that's been browned and infused with warming spices before we make the cocktail. So before we get there, we've got to cold smoke our butter, which means I'm gonna throw you back to the ATBBQ patio to walk you through the cold smoking process. And when it comes to cold smoking, there's a few things that you have to have. Obviously, you need a source of smoke, ideally one that doesn't put off much heat because, again, we're cold smoking. Of course, you're also going to need a chamber to place your food in for that smoke to actually settle on the food. But that brings us to the third thing, which is airflow. And if you just have a chamber that's you're pumping smoke into and the smoke's sitting on the food, it's not gonna be very tasty. It's gonna stagnate on that food. It'll be bitter. It's not a very clean smoke flavor. So ideally you need some kind of airflow, whether that's natural with a stack or what we're gonna do today, which is forced air using fans. And that's why we're using today the Yoder Smoker's pellet grill. So immediately when you power on the Yoder, the external and internal fans start running, but there's no heat, there's no fire, there's no ignition unless we press start. So we're just going to leave the fans running. So instead of firing up the grill, we're going to use a 12-inch smoke tube that's filled with pellets today for our smoke. And we're using pecan pellets for this particular cold smoke. So just slide this tube right here on the left side of the grill and light it up with a torch. So now that those pellets have lit themselves, I'm gonna blow the flame out and just let the smoke rise into the chamber. And when we close this up, that air is gonna push it from the bottom corner all the way to the top, out the stack. Now when you're cold smoking, you wanna try and keep your food away from the heat source. And with something as delicate as butter, especially, you don't want to do this on a warm day. It's about 50 degrees Fahrenheit here today. So not only are we going to put it away from the heat source, we're actually going to add some ice to the cooking chamber to make sure that we can keep the temperature down. And then we're just gonna let this smoke away for about 2 to 3 hours. A few hours time is plenty for cold smoking butter. So at this point, we're gonna pull that butter off, transfer it over to the refrigerator. If you're using it for, say, the hot buttered rum like we are today, you can go ahead and immediately use that for brown butter. But if you're gonna like spread it on some bread or use it in other items, I'd go ahead and let it mellow out in the fridge for a couple of days, either in cryovac or in a plastic bag. So now that we've got our butter smoked, we're gonna go ahead and brown it and at the same time infuse some of these warming spices. So we've got some star anise here, whole allspice, and a cinnamon stick. I'm gonna crush that. And the goal here is to brown this butter so it really gets some depth of flavor, but we have to do it gently, we have to do it slowly. It's gonna foam up, it's gonna start to cook down, but we can't go too fast or we're gonna scorch it and it gets super bitter. So slowly now we're going to infuse these spices into the butter as it browns. So now the butter's all frothy on top. You can see these areas of browning. We wanna check and see. It's hard to tell in a dark skillet, so I like to take just a little spoonful. And you can see kind of down here, there's dark bits of that browned milk fat, the solids there. That's what tells us that this butter is fully browned now. So turning off the heat, we're gonna transfer our brown butter to the blender. We're just gonna strain it off first. And then we'll take those solids and we're just gonna put those right here in our mason jar. Because essentially what's gonna happen now is we're going to add equal parts rum to our browned butter. We're gonna blend it up to do the fat washing process, and then we're gonna pour it into this jar and it's gonna separate out in the freezer, preferably overnight, although you can do it just a few hours time. But we're gonna let those solids also kind of infuse while this chills down. So 2 sticks of butter means 1 cup. We're gonna add 1 cup of our Grander 8-year rum. Now, of course, the fat and the liquid don't wanna mix, so we're essentially gonna emulsify it here in the blender. And we're gonna work all of that brown butter, that infused brown butter, right into the rum. All right, doesn't take long. And then we'll pour that in our mason jar along with the spices and throw this into the freezer to separate out. The fat's gonna come to the top, the rum's gonna stay on the bottom, and I've got one finished we'll pull out right now to show you what that looks like. So here is a finished batch. Right here on top is all of that fat. We're just gonna cut a hole through that so we can get to the rum. And we're gonna strain off the liquid through a cheesecloth so that we lose the solids, including the fat. And what you're left with is this cloudy butter, brown butter infused rum. We'll do a side by side here of the original rum. You can see how clear that is compared to the brown butter washed rum. And the flavor, and not just the flavor, but the aroma. It's like butterscotch. And that was how I heard it described when I first picked this whole technique up for this video, which was from Greg over at How to Drink on YouTube. If you guys are into cocktails, you gotta check out How to Drink. Fantastic channel. We changed a few things, including smoking the butter and a little bit of the process, but a lot of this is all just due to that recipe for Greg's hot buttered rum. So from here, let's go ahead and build these cocktails. So we're gonna start with a pat of our smoked butter that we reserved earlier in the bottom and add to each one of those a good heaping tablespoon of our maple smoked turbinado sugar. Now, how much sugar you want, totally up to you. I don't like it super sweet, so a heaping tablespoon's enough for me. Do just a little shake of cinnamon and then enough hot water to melt everything. You're gonna end up with 3 to 4 ounces of hot water in the end, but we can always top it off later. For now, let's get everything stirred up and melted. We get that butter melted down, that sugar's mostly dissolved. We'll go ahead and add our brown butter rum. 2 ounces for each drink. And then top it off with your hot water. Garnish with our cinnamon sticks. And that's it. And it's just the right amount of sweet and a really nice amount of smoke. And smoking that butter really adds something to it. Not to mention the smoked turbinado that's in there, but it's not too sweet. And I'm picking up on all those spices, those warming spices. That'll warm your belly and warm your soul. Super tasty. And because we've infused that butter into the rum, it's not just like an oil slick in your mouth, but it's buttery all the way around, like a smoky butterscotch. Just super tasty. Cheers, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check out atbbq.com for all the products featured in today's video. If you enjoy the recipe, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments, or there's anything you'd like to see me cook, let me know in the comment section down below, and let's be good to one another. For more recipes, tips, and techniques, head over to atbbq.com/thesauce. All things barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.